Welcome again to American Zarathustra. This is Imperium Art, episode 37. Our guest this evening is one of our top musical talents in the white positive sphere and a pillar in the white art collective. Her hauntingly beautiful indie folk is like no other style out there, and her message speaks to the cause of white well-being, both in expressing the pains whites suffer globally in the war on whites, but also through her music. She brings light and beauty into this darkness, leaving an indelible memory of her music. She has collaborated with many great artists in and around the White Art Collective and has appeared on many shows, sharing her philosophical insights. After the show, we urge you to follow her on Spotify and her social media, purchase her music, and check out her interview with Jeff Winston on the White Art Collective D Live show. Her music is exemplary of Imperium art. She joined us previously with author D. Morehouse on Imperium Art, episode 7. So I also urge you to go check out that and see another side of her. So we talked about Francis Parker Yockey on that show, and it's a great philosophical discussion. It's an honor and a pleasure to have her back. Ladies and gentlemen, the amazing Hiraeth. How are you today?
Wow, thank you for having me. I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And once again, I'd like to welcome back my friend and co-host, Gaius Nullus, creator of Conversations with the Wind on White Art Collective D Live. How are you, Nullus?
Hi, Donald. How are you? Hello, welcome back, Hiraeth, and hello to the audience.
Yes, good stuff.
Thank you.
So, yeah, now, is there anything I missed in the intro? There's a lot more to you that, I think we all know you as a musician, but when you were on the Imperium Art episode 7, we had an in-depth discussion on Francis Parker Yockey, and I just don't think that everybody quite knows that side of you. I think it's quite awesome. So it's great. You were on White Art Collective with Jeff Winston. What did you guys talk about on that show?
Well, that was actually for the album release party, and we did an interview. We kind of went over the album theme and the songs. I kind of had to go through them sort of quickly because we were on a time schedule, and we actually aired the album that night. So that was really good. And then as far as promotions go, I did a Scum interview with Lucy Brown back in October, just talking a little bit about the album. And we premiered the song Glimmer, which is on the album. And then I did another interview with Nick Cotton, also known as Unwashed or Vile News. Awesome. And I did that with him in December. And then I also did another written interview with Lucy Brown from Scum recently. So that was on the week of the release. I think that was the Saturday after, was the 20th.
Both great friends of the White Art Collective. Yeah, I'm a big fan of both. So you're on a kind of a great marketing campaign now for this album.
Well, trying to spread the word. I'm also I got to say, I'm really happy that you guys aren't sick of me yet, because this is my third time on the show.
No, yeah, it's, of course. I mean, we love you. It's been amazing just being somebody in another musician in the White Art Collective to see all the people kind of from the beginning, and then now there's more coming in, and the incredible diversity of styles and voices. It blows my mind, and I feel like you're kind of the maybe the crowning jewel of it all. Your music is just so unique, and you just have a very, very well established aesthetic, which I think is important. It shows when you see that some people write songs and they're kind of figuring it out as they go. But your music, I don't know, it just seems it's just very organic. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just so true. I guess I'll put it that way.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
So the name of the album is Metamorphosis. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So now I understand it's a concept album?
Yes, it is. And it's based on, just metamorphosis in nature. There's, a caterpillar is born, and it goes through these 4 phases called instars where it molts and sheds its skin. And it grows a little bit bigger every time. And it's basically just lives to eat because it's just trying to grow and expand and grow until it has enough strength to form a chrysalis at the end of the 4th instar. And when it forms a chrysalis, it actually like completely transforms inside that thing. I mean, it's like its organs and everything dissolve, and it reshapes and remolds into a completely like seemingly new creature. And then when the chrysalis opens, it's the butterfly or the dragonfly or the moth or whatever it is.
I didn't know I was going to get a biology lesson today. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I
bonus.
feel a bit redundant, but it's like this is very it's metaphorical to that. And so I like the idea of looking at nature and using that as a metaphor for something that can happen within man or within us, you know. I was trying to think because it's actually the whole album concept is very relevant to Nullus's recent theme for his latest show for Conversations with the Wind, which aired last Sunday. The first part did. And for anybody listening, I recommend checking that out because it was a fantastic episode.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was awesome. But yeah, so it has a lot to do with death and rebirth and facing mortality and all of these things. And it's also on many different levels. So we can do this as individuals. We can do this just in life in general. And then it's also in like our community and the movement, waking up to certain truths. You go through all sorts of phases. You know, you go through the red pill, the black pill, or however you want to word it, you know. And it's just kind of about self-transformation, but also it plays on Yaki and Spengler's concept of how, you know, a bunch of individuals basically create this collective body, and you know, they viewed culture as a living organism or one body, and you could see race as the same sort of thing, even the family unit. And there's different just levels of this, or, you know, microcosms and macrocosms and stuff. And so it's kind of just about like self-transformation. And when you start with yourself, hopefully if you can work cohesively with other people who are doing the same thing in your group, then it's going to contribute and make the entire body as a whole that much stronger and that much healthier. And and so it's like when you go through, you know, if we want to transform the way things are around us, and we want to transform our people, or we want to, you know, grow as a people, then we have to actually start with ourselves on an individual level, but we have to do it in a way that is harmonious and cohesive in relativity to each other, if that makes any sense.
That's really, really powerful and very, very eloquently stated. So that, I think right there, we could just snip that right there, and that's the whole show. It's really powerful stuff, and I can't overstate that, basically. So it seems that we are all struggling on almost a daily basis with just our mental, physical, social health, spiritual health, all that, you know. And I think that if each one of us takes on kind of the badge of, I'm in this movement and I represent this movement, and therefore I'm going to be the best representative of the movement by being the best me, if you will. I don't know if that's cheesy to say it that way, but taking care of yourself is taking care of everyone in the movement, right? So I was wondering, since you brought up the show on death and rebirth from Nullus and Conversations with the Wind, if you could maybe share with us some of the takeaways. It's kind of an interesting crossover between the theme of your album and the theme of Nullus's 2-part show.
I mean, I think a lot of the takeaway is that, you know, when you're throughout your whole life, there are times where you sort of you die and you're reborn, in a sense, in many different phases in life. And it's all part of growth. It's all part of learning something. And it's like you shed a little bit of dead weight every time you go through this sort of transformation. And I really like how you guys were talking about that, as well as facing your own mortality, because, well, death is very much feared in this culture, or in, the modern world that we're in today, and it shouldn't be, because it's just part of a process, and it's part of a transformation, and it shouldn't be something seen as something that's so like final, because
Yeah.
it's not. I don't see it that way at all. So
Mm-mm.
I
That
thought that you
maybe
guys did a really good job of talking about the different aspects of all of those things.
if you were on the panel, what would be some things that you would contribute to the conversation? Like, what are maybe some of your personal perspectives on death and rebirth, both in reality and symbolically?
Oh gosh, I don't even know how to answer that. I'd have to
Curveball.
think. I'd have to think about it. It's a tough question because, yeah, I mean, we're in an age where people are trying to hold on to their mortality. Like, you see all these aging serums. People are getting plastic surgery and they want to live forever. And you hear about stories of the Philosopher's Stone or the Fountain of Youth, and people automatically jump to, oh, my body will live on forever if we have this special substance or this one thing. And it's like, no, that's actually not what all of that was about. It was about transmutation of the soul, like a purification of the soul, so that you can move forward in whatever phase comes next after this life. And I think that is just, it's so interesting how that idea gets misconstrued in like in modern teachings of it.
Yeah, Nullus, do you want to jump in? Let us know, comment a little bit on this.
Well, actually, I wanted to sort of step back a moment just to the EP, because when Hiraeth first played the song Glimmer, and this is going back a few months, that was around, I think it was October, if I'm not mistaken, early October, right, Hiraeth? Something like that. When you, just that one single, not the entire EP.
Yes, that was in October.
And that was when I had an episode on Conversations with the Wind to commemorate the Hungarian Revolution and uprising of 1956. And what was really interesting was that I was looking for themes that relate to this, musical themes that would relate to the episode that I could play on the show. And when I heard your song, I mean, and this is very hard to explain for someone who did not grow up in this milieu, but I'll try to explain it. This is a very critical moment for many people. For me, for example, a formative moment. I mean, I'm a product of this historical event. My parents fled Hungary after the revolution was unsuccessful. They met in the United States, so I'm basically a result of this whole chain of events. And when I heard this song, it sort of echoed this exact mood and symbolism and just general feeling. And to me, it was like it was a testament to these common threads that we have in our collective consciousness. That Hiraeth can write a song like this, and it just immediately speaks to my heart in a way that I can't even explain without going into too much detail. So I figured what I'd like to do is I'd like to play the song, but not only play the song, but also try to find some kind of video to sort of describe this mood and this emotion that I'm feeling when I'm hearing the song. And as luck would have it, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Saint Constantine's YouTube channel, but he's got a phenomenal YouTube channel. He has a lot of really good material there, a lot of good videos that he produces, cutting clips together of various sources and putting it to music. And he had this. He put together this series of edits from a movie called Children of Glory from 2006, which was a movie that commemorated the Hungarian Revolution of 1956. And I mean, it was just meant to be almost, because the exact timing of his video and your song was exactly the same. It was just I couldn't all I had to do was just basically put his video and your song together, Hiraeth, and that's all I had to do. And when I first watched it, I got really teary-eyed because that to me was such a powerful message. And so the point of this, going back to mortality and facing mortality, if you watch the movie, and I don't really want to spoil it for everyone, but it does have a very tragic ending, and it's all about facing your mortality. It's all about standing up for what you believe in, and taking that risk, and facing the consequences of that risk. And so this ties back then to our conversation on Sunday with Dee Morehouse, Donald, and Josh Neal, where you hit the nail on its head, Hiraeth, where you said that everyone's striving toward some kind of artificial immortality, but I think it's beyond immortality. It's this arrested development where you have a lot of these man children out there that still collect little dolls, when they're in their 40s, and I don't want to knock people for being collectors and what have you, but at some point people have to grow up, in my opinion. And I think that there's this whole desire to stay youthful forever, and this also hits on our or touches upon our mortality. I'm sorry, our birth rates. How our declining birth rates also tie into this, because people get married later, they don't want to have children, they decide not to have families. Oh, I have time. There's no rush, and then the years go by so fast you don't even notice, and you have nothing. And you see this very often in our society today. And then when that realization comes, then people start to feel very, they get very depressed. So I hope that tied it in nicely to what you were talking about, Hiraeth. But I wanted to sort of touch upon that. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Don.
No, I just wanted to tag on to that actually expresses how her music is sort of timeless. I think there is a timelessness to her music. It's an eerie beauty. There's a strange, haunting beauty to your music, Hiraeth. And I don't know what to say. I don't know, where does it come from? How do you work your magic? Could you maybe get inside that process a little bit and open it up for us?
It's really hard to explain. I'm really glad that song resonated with you, Nullus, and that my music resonates with both of you. I really am. And I loved that video too. It was awesome. And it did sync up really well, which was surprising to me as well. Me too. And that song Glimmer, it's about having a glimmer of hope, and the fact that like tearing yourself away from the modern world to create a better future isn't going to be easy. There's going to be a lot of pain involved, but it's like you do it because you're looking at the bigger picture, and you know in your heart that you want the future to be better than what it is right now. So you'll do what you have to do to make that happen. But as far as like where it comes from, I'm not really sure. I just create stuff. It sounds lame, but I do. I mean, I just kind of start with, I'll just start with something. I start exploring a sound, or maybe I'll explore a thought. Usually the music comes first, but not always. So it's kind of inconsistent as far as how I write, or what comes first. But yeah,
this is a mystery I've been trying to unravel, and I'm a musician as well, and I just find it interesting to sort of get under the hood and see how does it work, right? And it seems like a lot of your music is in 3/4. Am I right? It is more of a waltz kind of. You know what I'm saying? It's not in the typical rock 4/4 type beat pattern. Am I correct?
Yeah, there's some 4/4, or I think I've done some 1/4, but a lot of it is 3/4. And what's funny is I didn't even know what time, like I had no idea about time signatures or anything like a year ago. So this is kind of new. And I've had to figure it out by like, okay, by trying to find the right metronome, because I'm trying to record, right? And I'm like, I have a tendency when I'm playing normally to speed up and slow down, and it's like a natural sort of crescendo sort of thing. But when you're recording, that can actually hinder you if you're trying to add a beat or anything. If you want to build on top of something, it's really hard when you're like not staying consistent as far as your timing or your speed. of playing the guitar, for instance. So I had to learn the time signatures by just like clicking random things on the computer and well, this is what 3/4 sounds like. I guess that's what I'm doing, you know.
So just for the audience's benefit, I'll demonstrate the difference between 3/4 and 4/4. So you have a measure and you have like, it's basically the way music flows or sounds. So a typical 4/4 rock beat is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It has it kind of square, whereas a 3/4 is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that it has a more of a swinging
It's more
quality.
waltzy for sure.
Waltz
Yeah.
is it? Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was gonna dance here in a minute, you know.
yeah. Everybody join in, and here we go. No, but get your guitar. But you know, after having said that, when people go back and listen to your music, they'll be, wow, you know, bang, holy cow! It's nice to see behind the curtain a little bit and get a sense of how it works. You have a voicing though, like the way that you sing. You don't just simply say the words. You add some kind of like mist to it or something, and there's just the way that you aspirate the poetry and the song. It's very expressive, and I think combining that with the lyrics and, you know, some of the dark themes that you're dealing with, and then the raw guitar and all that kind of stuff, it just all comes together in a really incredible, unique voice. And you don't need you know, 10 instruments and all kinds of crazy wicked guitar solos and all this stuff. It's you can do so much with so little, and I think you prove that.
Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
So I promise the whole show is not going to be me complimenting you. I just get that clear now. So sorry, if we could move into the next question here. So if you could give us an overview of the concept and walk through each song, describe its meaning and the collaborations you did on each. So you can say, for instance, say the name of the first song on the EP or the CD. I always think of albums, you know, but and then you know, who was on that with you, and you know, how did the collaboration fall together? How did that all work for you? So.
Sure. Well, so first off, just backing up a little bit, I wrote a couple songs before I really came up with the concept, and I wasn't sure when I did think of the concept, and I was trying to sort of organize things in my mind and what order things might come in as I was writing them. I was like, well, these songs fit in there. And one of them was Quarantine, and the other one was, I think, We Are the West. And but they ended up actually fitting in really well with the concept. So I'll just say that. But so for number one on the album, it's Genesis featuring Jerome Schmidt, which you guys had on Imperium Art, and that was a great episode.
Yeah, great filmmaker. And
audience should check that out if you haven't.
Yeah, I want, you know, people. This Imperium Art show is insanely rich with content, because we're interviewing all these incredible people in the white positive movement. So yeah afterwards. But so how did you connect with him? Why Jerome Schmidt? I mean, why him? What was the contact or the connection with that?
We had been talking back and forth a little bit, and sometimes I like to share things I'm working on with other people, because it's good to have somebody to bounce back, like ideas back and forth with, or to get reactions from, and it can kind of help you figure out where you want to go sometimes if you're not really sure. And so I just did this random thing, and I was like, I did a thing and I sent it to him, and then he was like, oh, I have an idea. Can I do something with that? And I was like, sure, why not? And so he ended up taking a Francis Parker Yockey quote and like doing this cool thing where he was reading on top of it, and had different like tracks with reverb. It sounded like this kind of echo, like a trippy echo effects.
Wow.
Like you're going through some sort of wormhole almost, but like it's really cool the way he did it. And he sent it back, and it kind of just clicked, and I was like, can I use this as the first track on the album? And he was like, yeah.
See, that's
because I was
cool.
like, it fits perfectly. I think I'll call it Genesis, because I like the idea of using a man's voice for the beginning of this album in particular, because I'm really strong on the masculine and feminine principles of, just of nature. And it's two halves to a whole, but the masculine side is very just generative and creative, and it's that first action that it takes to like put that spark out into the world, whether it's an idea or um, charging into battle or whatever you want to see it as.
Mm-hmm.
And or the sun, you could even look at just nature in general, the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that quote that he used by Francis Parker Yockey was perfect to illustrate this sort of idea.
For the audience and people who maybe are new to the show, Francis Parker Yockey wrote the book Imperium, which is, obviously I borrowed that name for the name of Imperium Art, and he's a philosophical figure that I don't want to go off on a tangent on that, but I'll just say that so that people have a little bit of context on that. They can go research Yockey on their own. That's really interesting to hear you say that in a sense that you wanted a male voice, and I'll say it surprised me a lot when I started listening to this album, thinking, whoa, that wasn't what I was expecting. And it's interesting because it's almost like a movie, and the first scene of the movie, you're kind of taken aback and you're oh, what's going on here, and it pulls you into the story. So that was a clever device,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Well, it's like being, in Metamorphosis, the concept. It's like being born, and it's the start of this journey. And the last part of the quote that he reads is, "The earthly task is merely the form of the higher task, its organic vehicle." So it's like this booming voice reassuring you that like you're here in this body, and even though it's confining and it's painful, you're here for a reason. And it's like then it's sending you on your way to figure out what that reason is. So
as above, so below.
yeah.
This is interesting because it's always kind of pointing to the mystical or esoteric side of this topic of metamorphosis, death, rebirth, and this is the time we're in, and I guess we're kind of emoting these things and channeling these topics. I think our people need to hear them because we're all going through it together as a movement. So it's just all coming together. So what's the second song?
The second song is Quarantine, and that was the one that I actually wrote before I came up with the concept, but it turned out that it fit in really well, in my opinion. I wrote this last year during the lockdowns at the end of March, and it's obvious. It's pretty obvious what it's about. It's about the frustration of having to be stuck in four walls. But on a deeper level, it's also about the feeling of being boxed in or confined in such a way where you can't express yourself fully. So, more than just physically not being able to go outside, if you look at just the current day and age, it's like we're censored all over the place. We can't just say what we want to say, and we have to tiptoe around everything, and it's really frustrating, and it really boxes you in, or backs you up into a corner, and it's a frustrating feeling. So it's kind of it gives you that primal frustration of just like, I need to get out, so that's where that one came from.
Yeah, I'm sure very, very many people can relate to that for sure. Now, how did that segue into the whole concept album? What, was it? I guess I'm not seeing the connection that somehow stimulated this whole album, I guess. Am I right?
Well, I thought of the concept and everything. I was trying to think of a way to express that. Well, I was going on this long thought process, or this rabbit hole of thought, when it comes to Yockey and Spengler's concept of how, every civilization rises and falls. There's always going to be death. And I think that we're in like this false sense of, we are, I guess as a whole, humanity is in a state of decay right now, or decadence. But as a people, like as European people, I think that we're not necessarily there. I think that we're just in this weird in-between state where it's a transformative state. And so I was trying to figure out of a way to express that you can live several lives within one life cycle. And I think that Metamorphosis explained that really well. And Quarantine just goes into that whole primal feeling of when you're first, like, it's like when you're first born or whatever, you're stuck inside this body, or you're confined in this space, and you have to figure out a way to either utilize that or break out of that thought of being confined so that you can free yourself from it, if that makes any sense. And that's why I wanted to follow it up, well, with the first instar, which is the quest.
Okay, so it's almost like it seems to me like a chrysalis or cocoon state I'm just making an analogy here with that, and there's this kind of birthing or desire to birth and grow and break out and transform, etc. Quick, wanted to pop on here with Nullus and see if he had any comments so far.
Yeah, of course.
No, nothing yet. I mean, for me, I see a lot of similarities with the hero's journey as well when I'm looking at the process of this, of the the genesis, the realization. The quarantine is that event that pushes the hero to move forward in the journey. And so as I'm going through the process of your album, of your EP, I can see a lot of similarities with that. But I'll just leave it at that for now, and just let you continue, because I this is phenomenal to hear you describe this process.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean that's exactly right as far as the hero's journey, and that's the other thing is, well, I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but it kind of comes to the fact that there is like a hero in all of us. We all have this King Arthur inside of us, or whatever you want to, whatever heroic figure or archetype you want to use. Sure. And I think that comes towards the end of the album. But so after Quarantine, it leads into the first instar, which is also called The Quest. And that one doesn't have any words to it, but it just has this vibe of like, all right, we need to do this. We got to get going, and that's sort of the energy behind that. And the instars are kind of like a reflective period, I guess. They're short, they're not full length songs. And I did that for a reason. I wanted them to kind of connect all of the other songs and help harmonize or bring together this theme and make this concept more whole. And so after the first instar, it goes into The Crossing, which was actually an accident. I just kind of wrote that song. I wasn't even trying to write a song, and it just came out. And then I was like, well, okay, it's going to go on the album because it needs to, I guess. It just was like an intuitive thing. But The Crossing is kind of about being depressed and just feeling very black-pilled, like you don't know, you don't know what your role is in all of this. You don't know what's going to happen from the one day to the next. And that can be really scary. And and you want to belong somewhere. So I think that a lot of people tend to feel that way at times.
Certainly. I'm very guilty of over internalizing things, and getting it can be damaging if you feel too much, and especially the crisis that we're going through now. At some point, just for myself, I hit a certain wall, and I'm like, okay, I gotta back off because I gotta serve my people. I have to do good things here. I can't let this crush me. I need to and through struggle we get stronger. I know that's kind of cliche, but it really is true. So yeah, you're an artist, you're a sensitive person, you're insightful, thoughtful, you feel these things intimately, and then you channel them or you manifest them into your music, which then becomes a gift for everybody who listens to it. Yeah. And I mean, I'm really saying, I guess, on behalf of everyone who can enjoy your music and be inspired by it. So that's a kind of an alchemy to take this, the black pill, so to speak, and turn it into a white pill. That's a sort of I think of a kind of a magic in a sense. So
yeah, And I think that like facing these darker aspects within yourself or, as a collective, like our darker traits, I think it's necessary. Like saying that it's necessary doesn't mean that it's good to get stuck in that frame of mind. I think that obviously that's not good. You don't want to get stuck there or go too deep into it, but it's good to face your demons.
Mm.
And how else can you fight them off if you don't know if you're, ignoring their existence in the first place? So
There is a song concept right there, Face Your Demons. And also to pop back over to Nullus and the death and rebirth theme in the Conversations with the Wind right now, that speaks to the arrested development that we were talking about, the idea of running away from your demons, which is arrested development. That's the idea of like infantile, to become infantile in some sense, to constantly escape things and not think through. Anyway, Nellis, do you want to speak a little bit to that?
Well, maybe it's running away toward your demons. In other words, you're retreating into whatever obsession it is that you have, so that you can, escape the inevitability of death, of your mortality. So you'll look for various alternatives, any vice that you can, and you pursue that vice passionately, so that you don't have to confront your own reality. So I
All
think
right.
that so it's almost like the demon is chasing you and you're turning back to embrace the demon, because you know that that's the escape. It's a pretty sad situation that we have. It's a societal issue, I think, but at the same time, I really wanted to bring that home in the episode and Conversations with the Wind as well, that this is not an entirely depressing thing as well. I mean, there's a lot of people that have faith, that have a positive outlook, that struggle with these and overcome these demons, and they do move forward. So it's not impossible, and I think that that's really the important message. And then the message in our show was that facing your mortality is to face life as
Yeah.
opposed to facing death.
Yeah. I want to add something here that I think if we simply shift our perspective to see that life is a narrative, and art is, film is a narrative, literature is a narrative, songs are narratives, everything has a beginning, middle, and an end. And that, if we see our life in this light and become more playful with it, think in terms of like in Buddhism they talk about dharmic theater, and that we're and then Shakespeare is, that all the, what is it, all the world's a play, and I'm sorry I can't quote that perfectly, but if you look at life simply as this narrative arc, then you can be in the moment more, and you can feel things and fully and enjoy them, be brave and face those kinds of things, rather than the perspective of, I don't want to feel my feelings. I don't want to face reality. And there's so much of that. It's devastating how these people kind of almost enforce their denial on you. Like, don't make me think about these things. Don't make me
Right.
talk these things. Just the censorship that's happening in social media is a gargantuan example of that. Don't tell the truth. And it's very real, but it's also, sort of outside and inside us in a way. So anyway, this ties back to the narrative of a concept album, which you're doing. You have an arc here. So if you maybe move on, let us know what's the next song on the EP.
sure. It's Breakthrough, and that one we go from the crossing, which is crossing over this dark abyss almost,
Mm.
to Breakthrough, which is kind of breaking through to the other side. It's
What are you, Jim Morrison now? What's going on?
yeah, right.
Well, now, who have you collaborated with so far? I want to mention people.
I've heard rumors that Hiraeth has collaborated with Jim Morrison, but don't tell
All
anybody.
right, awesome. All right, well, I want to be in
Back
that
from
band.
the dead, yeah.
Yeah,
Speaking of rebirth.
yeah. There you go.
um so far we've just got Jerome Schmidt. The rest of
Oh,
these songs are I did on my own completely. So with Breakthrough, I guess the last couple lines is illusions shattering like glass blown to pieces, fault lines showing the will to survive. And that's kind of, it's kind of what you were talking about, how, you get a little self-consumed sometimes, and then you just realize, look, I need to stop worrying or being afraid, and because I need to do this for my people or for my family, and that's what's most important. So it's a sacrifice that you have to make, and that's a kind of recurrent theme throughout the album as well, is making like a willing sacrifice for the greater good of the unit or the body.
That calls on all of us to think through what sacrifices can we each make in our own way. A lot of people reach out to us in the White Art Collective, sort of the fans and the followers, just, they have a lot of energy and they want to say, learn how to draw or working on learning how to play guitar or this or that. And not everybody has artistic talents. There's so many other things that we could do or be. And so I just want to take a moment to kind of call out to everybody to think through, what can you do for the movement of white well-being, and we as artists, I actually feel limited. I wish I could go into politics. I wish I could, have that kind of power, but my power really is the guitar and the brush, and the microphone. But let's all complement each other and fill in the total mosaic of the white well-being movement in this way, and take an inspiration from Hiraeth here.
Well, Donald, I think. Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
No,
I was just going to say,
ahead,
Donald, you're doing a great job, and I think you're a wonderful artist and a great speaker for the movement.
Whoa! No compliments to me. Yeah, I don't know how to take it.
But I'm sorry, Nullus. Go ahead.
I kind of feel left out right now, but that's okay.
Nullus, you're a wonderful writer. You know I believe that about you.
Nullus makes a great cup of tea. Let me tell you, he's the best.
I do make a great cup of tea. The breakthrough element to me also kind of signifies a redemption, a realization, or how does redemption fit into this for you? That would be my question.
Good question.
Oh gosh, I guess, it fits in quite well. I'm not really sure how to express that like with words, but it is part of that death and rebirth thing. Dying and then being reborn. Redemption can play a big role in that, for instance, we might feel guilty for a past that's being pushed on us, whether it's true or false. It's, to a lot of people, that's the reality. That's their past. That's what they know as the past, even if it's not true. So, they have to they want to redeem themselves through other actions, and this kind of plays into the whole liberal narrative of why there's so much craziness going on with white guilt and being ashamed of just being born who you are. So, but
yeah, and it's interesting because I think that it's an important. I felt it, at least but when I was listening to your EP, that there was this almost an undertone of a redemption arc. In other words, coming
Absolutely.
to realization of who you are. So when you have the breakthrough in the self, that's sort of the breakthrough is the realization. The self is the process of looking in the mirror, the inner journey of understanding yourself in this process. And I would also tie to this this narrative that people have today of shirking responsibility, of do whatever you want, you can be whoever you want, you have no responsibilities, you follow your heart. All of these messages are being thrown at us, and there's no message of taking responsibility for anything. And I think that also kind of ties into this, because you're placing these songs beautifully alongside each other, or in right after each other, in the sense that there's this whole process of understanding all of these subtleties, and it shines right through in your music.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. I put a lot of time and thought and energy into it, into the layers as well. Some things aren't very easily expressed through words, or telling people something. So it's when you express it, you're trying to figure out a way to, um, it's got to come out organically, but you also want it to translate over, So sometimes it can be a tricky balance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this album is more highly produced as well. You've got more production effects and things. Maybe take a quick moment to talk about that.
Sure. Well, I'm always trying to learn something new, and production's never been something that I'm really comfortable with or good with. So I decided to take on the challenge, and I've been learning a little bit by bit, and I actually enjoy the challenge of it now a little bit more than I did. It's still not, still doesn't come naturally to me, but I do enjoy it a lot more now, and I
Hmm.
think that it can help. I think there's a balance too, because sometimes if something's overproduced, it can strip away
Yeah.
just the soul of it, or like just the oomph or the essence,
Yeah,
the
yeah. Well, you
spirit.
have,
It's like it could just make it seem sort of dead, I guess. Or
yeah,
it
and
might
but
sound catchy, or you want to sing along or dance to it, but it's like it doesn't make you feel anything other than like it's just the beat that makes you want to dance. It's not really the
sure, yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Your obviously your content and your message is really key. So you use these sort of audio filters and these special effects or whatever to bolster your message. To
Yeah.
create to paint the world a bit more. It's more cinematic in a way.
Hmm.
The
And I
raw.
think that's how production should be. And I think Olivia Key is really good at that.
Oh Lord, oh my God,
She's
she's
amazing at it. I
she's
mean,
just angelic, and honestly,
yeah.
I think everybody is completely floored by her. We were so happy to have her come into our sphere in the White Art Collective. And speaking of which, she's also on a previous episode of Imperium Art. So the the listener has a lot of catching up to do. They got a lot of shows to go
I know
check
I'm dropping all the plugs on the
out.
audience.
No, hey, this is your platform, not ours. So we're
But
plugging your.
I listened to that one, and it was a great interview. I also listened to her interview, with Jody Kay. Not to get too off topic of the album or anything, but she really does have the full package, and we're super lucky to have her. So I hope people, listen to her stuff, and I hope she grows because she's got some massive reachability.
Oh, hugely, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just one more, gold piece in the chest, so to speak. We so much wealth in our sphere here in the White Art Collective. It's incredible. A lot of good stuff to look forward to. We have a great future to look forward to. It's incredible, with all so much talent. It's quite exciting. So,
Hmm.
what's the next song?
So the next one is The Self. It's the second instar. And this one's sort of just an affirmation. It's, well, like I said, that sort of depression or that, black pill, it can come in different forms and it can come in waves. And I think that it can be like that for a lot of people, phases throughout their lives. And I think sometimes our biggest hindrance is ourself or listening to people tell us that we can't do something. Like, and the lyrics to this are simple. I mean, it's being as you are, more than what you were, what you will become. It's greater than something small. And so it's like as long as you're trying to grow as a person and learn and contribute in some sort of way, I think
Mm,
that, mistakes might be made, but that's part of life. And this is just sort of that affirmation, telling myself and telling other people not to listen to anyone when they tell you that you can't succeed in doing something that you feel like it's your calling or you're compelled to do.
mm,
So don't listen to people if they tell you that you're not good enough or that you can't do it. And that also includes yourself, because I think a lot of times we tell ourselves we can't do stuff. And
mm, mm,
especially in a world where, for white men, for instance, are being told that they're evil and they're, like the spawn of Satan, and they're horrible and and it's like these younger white males, it's like how I can't even imagine what they must go through
right, right.
growing up and being told these kinds of things. And it's no wonder that it just no it's no wonder suicide rates go up and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's
Well,
kind of
that's
my affirmation to those
yeah.
people and to myself as well.
The suicide route is obviously horrendous, but there's another bad route, and that is a sort of a radicalization. If some people aren't going to process it in a negative way, meaning like they won't internalize it, they'll externalize it and say, "Oh,
Oh
if
yeah.
I'm so bad and I'm such the villain, then I'm gonna boom, and who knows
I'll
what then."
take on that role and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I'll be the monster that you claim that I am, sort of thing.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that the left is building the monster that may eventually consume them. That's one of the main messages in our sphere is that listen to us. We're trying to stop that. We're trying
Yeah.
to like avert these tragedies that could happen by being positive. The white positive movement, right? So it's affirmative.
Donald,
Go ahead.
if I can just add something to this, I have to correct myself just slightly
Mm,
with something I said earlier. Um, I'm not saying people should not pursue their passions, and I'm also not saying that you shouldn't follow your heart, because I think that might have been misunderstood earlier. What I'm saying is that we live in a society that only uh, talks you into pursuing your own passion for yourself, not for a greater good.
Right.
You're so there's a difference to be made. So if you're creating art as an artist, and if you want to work as at something, whatever it is, and somebody tells you that you're not going to be good at it, or that you should do something else, or they try to blackpill you, you should continue to, if you really genuinely believe in it, then you shouldn't give up, and you should struggle and work hard at it and continue with it. So this is not, I'm not talking about not pursuing your dreams, and I'm also not talking about not pursuing your passions. Just don't let these passions turn inward, and don't let these passions dominate you. And if you have responsibilities toward your family, toward your brothers and sisters, towards anyone in your greater community, you have to take that into consideration with every step that you take. So I just wanted to sort of clarify somewhat what I said earlier. I don't want there to be a
Sure.
misunderstanding.
Sure, sure, sure.
Yeah.
If I can just quickly tag on to that, the satisfaction from accomplishing your struggles is the fulfillment that you're looking for. That you're running away from this sense of malaise and avoiding the struggle, right? So I'm just going to run to pleasure and not pain. Run away from pain. Well, embrace the pain, embrace the struggle in a meaningful way that
Right.
accomplishes your goals. That's quote
Yes.
passions there, and that when you come through that, you will transform and you will have earned your power, and you'll look back at whatever the drugs or the alcohol or whatever it is that you do to avoid pain, and you'll think, why was I doing that? It's so empty and hollow now.
Right.
I want this
Hmm.
greater fulfillment of becoming who we are. But to get back to Hiraeth and the message of her music, as I'm listening to you describe it, I'm feeling that a really powerful maternal energy coming out, or coming through, like this maternal sense of caring for the listener in a way. And I mean, it just suddenly occurred to me, listening to you now, and it's quite beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Well, well, it does go back to like I don't want anybody to feel alone. And anything that I've felt, I'm like, well, surely other people feel like this too, and maybe other people even feel it more than I do or more than I have.
Mm.
But with just going real quick to what Nolis was saying, I didn't think that that's what you meant at all, Nolis. I thought that what you were referring to was that we're encouraged to, to sort of act on our own self-interest, but in regards to the dark side of the ego, you know,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
and not for the
Exactly.
greater good, just like what you guys were saying. But
Exactly.
so the next song after the second in star, the self, is "We Are the West," and that's going back to the macrocosm of the group.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, one line that sticks out or stanza that sticks out is one truth can break a foundation as though it were made of glass, as one truth can create a new vision, a future not haunted by the past.
Wow.
And and that one's just more about, not feeling guilty for who you are. And then, the chorus is, the ghosts that haunt us will be laid to rest. The struggle is our test. And and that's just kind of comes back to that whole struggle is our strength. Sometimes it's a test for us, and it's going to make us stronger, because it's like an exercise. If you're at peace, or if you're like in a vegetable state, for instance, for too long, and you wake up from this vegetable state, like out of a coma, it's like it's hard to walk, and people have to go through physical therapy, and we're kind of like, that's the whole point, is sometimes struggle and friction can be really good for you in this way.
That's perfectly stated, and I think it's all kind of coming around. All these different topics, they're all circling back to themselves. It's quite cool. So yeah, tell us about the next song.
So the next one is the third instar, conjunction, and that goes back to that masculine and feminine principle of two halves to a whole, and just how we're going to have to work together in a cohesive way to create this vision of a future that we all want. So
it occurred to me just now, you might make a great Taoist. I don't know if you've ever read on Taoism, but like this, if balance and these themes are so important to you, there's quite a lot of wonderful reading ahead of you, the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu.
I have read it, actually, but yeah, I mean, I think that these are just wisdom, like little bits of wisdom that you get from studying nature, and we can learn from different spiritual beliefs, I believe, that can help us, take a better route in the future.
Yeah, more natural.
Figure out where to go from here, because it's a mess right now.
Right. Well, that's part of the philosophy of Taoism, is to understand nature's flow and work with it. That when you work against it, that's when suffering and calamity happen, So anyway, it's just, to me, that's so elementary, but unfortunately people in the West seem to be so whacked out of, they're just out of harmony with nature and their own nature and the nature of society, etc. So let's move on. What's the next song?
So the next one is Glimmer, which I won't really talk a lot about since I already kind of went over that one a little bit, but it is featuring Saint Friendship, and he did a piano part, and he did some harmonies.
Yes.
Coming into that one.
Another previous guest on Imperium Art.
Yeah.
That was a great show. I mean, first of all, like, people like Saint Friendship, yourself, other people that I don't know what to say, but anyone who's listened to their music, it's whoa, it kind of grounds you. You stop what you're doing, and the air stands still, and his music just has so much power in it. So I feel like you and him should collaborate more. I feel like there's a really great, I don't know, you're just highly compatible. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, I mean, I really like, he's one of the people that I will share stuff with when I'm not sure about a mix for something. He's got a really good ear for that kind of thing. And he's also amazing at mixing a ton of layers of vocals, which is something we both do in our music. We layer harmonies. And so I'll be like, does this sit right in the mix to you? And I'll send it to him, and he'll give me feedback. And he always gives me like the best critique ever, because he'll tell me what he likes about it, and he'll be like, but this could actually be improved here, and you would do this in this way. And I've learned a lot from him, and Amalek and Fornol, and it's awesome to have, and Jeff Winston too. So it's great to have feedback when you need it,
That's interesting, because it seems like perhaps there'll be more communication and collaboration between everyone in our sphere, and that we may in some way kind of grow together and closer. And even, I don't know, in some way perhaps there might even be a kind of a wax style, in 5-10 years from now or something. Who knows?
Yeah. But wacky style.
Yeah, it's getting wacky in here. That's funny. There's just so many puns that come around,
But don't get me started, Donald.
Oh, now we're in danger.
Noel's gonna start posting Molly memes.
I'm gonna be very punny if you don't stop.
And I've been punished enough. But so yeah, okay. So yeah, continue. What's the next song, Hiraeth?
So the next one is the fourth instar. It's the last instar actually, and
Okay.
it's titled Epiphany, and
Hmm.
it's spoken word over some like reverse guitar that I did. And I also went outside with my handheld recorder and recorded some crickets and cicadas in the
Nice.
middle of summer, and they were super loud. I actually had to turn that track down because it was way too loud originally. It was like
I
all you
know.
could hear.
I know
Um,
it works. Yeah.
yeah. And so the written word, it kind of ties in a lot of things, but it's that final realization that you have. And one of the lines that sticks out to me right now is, "It is the struggle from this darkness that compels us to rekindle the flame of our willful spirit, to keep going and to never, never give up."
Hmm.
And so that's kind of what it's about, is like finding that inner sun, or that inner light within you, because you can't really rely on the fact you can't be waiting around for a hero to come and save you. Like, you need to
Hmm.
try to figure out what you can do as an individual to help benefit the whole. And it's just like organs in a body. Like, if
Hmm.
your liver fails, you're screwed.
Yeah.
If your heart stops, you're screwed. I mean, every organ really matters, and it does its part, and it does its part to contribute to the
Hmm.
whole body. So, and even down to individual cells, it's all sort of the same idea.
Lovely, lovely. That's something that I brought up in Nullus's show on death and rebirth. The idea that each one of us is, the analogy I used was like a word on a page in the history of our people, and that
Hmm.
we should strive to be more than a word, but a chapter rather, or something. Or another analogy would be, if you're sort of one candle alone is, kind of not much in the darkness, but we're actually billions of candles together. And we just have to recognize that. We have to recognize our history, and then that way we can look to the future with like a bold spirit. So this is something Nullis always refreshes us on, is you know not to lose the continuity with our past. So,
Exactly.
and that's the whole concept really of the Imperium as well. Is our totality as a people, our Western biospirit. So
Hmm.
you're shining a very bright light right now in that regard, and I think everybody is able to be energized by your music and your ideas. So it's quite wonderful. And where can people find your music and subscribe or purchase your music?
You can find me on, let's see, Bandcamp. I have it written down somewhere. Oh, it's hiraeth9.bandcamp.com. I'm on Telegram as just Hiraeth Music, and I have like a link tree put up in that channel where it leads you to everything.
Okay.
And YouTube and SoundCloud, it's just Hiraeth Music. If you search that, you'll find it. Um,
Odyssey probably as well, right?
yes, Odyssey. I think it's Hiraeth Music on Odyssey too.
Okay. And then what on Spotify?
Hiraeth, just Hiraeth.
Just Hiraeth. Okay. So we've talked a lot about your music. We've covered quite a lot. I want to kind of break it off into more politics, and normally on our shows we have our guests read the Imperium Art essay, but this show I really wanted to just mostly promote your work and
Oh,
do a
thank you.
deep dive. Yeah, and get into the, like I said, under the hood. Get into the music, the meaning, the process, how it all came together. But
Hmm.
before we kind of talk more about your impressions on the Imperium Art show and what's happening with what we've been producing, I want to first get a sense of where do you think we are politically, and what do you think the future is looking like? Do you have any kind of sense of that?
Whew, well, that's a big question. I mean, I'm not really sure like what will happen.
Mm.
I think that things are probably going to get a lot worse, or maybe worse is, I mean, just more difficult for us before they're going to get better. We can sort of look at all the censorship that's going on. It's like it's going to be difficult to get around some of these things, but they're just hurdles, and I think they're going to make us more cunning and tactful in the long run to
Mhm.
figure out how to, get past that. And I'm actually strangely optimistic of the future, more so than I have been in years.
Hmm.
And there's a reason for that. And the reason is that the people in power are not true leaders. They
Right.
don't know how to properly lead people. They
Hmm.
manipulate for their own gain. They don't
Yeah.
know how to build worlds, but they only know how to destroy them.
Yeah, they steal elections and such.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the only time they create or build anything, it's for destructive purposes. And
Right.
it's only going to be a purpose that will somehow benefit them in the short term. And
Hmm.
they do this without any sort of thought or vision of a better future for mankind. And while they might be really good at what they do, it's never going to last because
Hmm.
people in general, I think they're drawn to the, back to the nature metaphor, they're drawn to the light of the sun and they're going to eventually follow the light where it shines the brightest. And I think that if you're only creating to destroy or you're only just focusing on destroying something that's already been created or is being created by other people,
Hmm.
it's a negative force that people don't want to get sucked into, and they start to realize even on some sort of intuitive level that something's not right with the world.
Yeah.
And that's how it started with me. I mean, before I was red pilled, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, I just knew something wasn't right, even, back when I was in school, back
Yeah.
in high
Yeah.
school and stuff. So,
Sure. Sure.
um, I
Me
think
too.
that that's a common thing that people feel, and they seek out different, you know, places where they can feel like they belong. And
Yeah.
sometimes they end up in the wrong place. But
Hmm.
it's all based on that same feeling that something isn't right and it needs to change. And
Hmm.
that's really important. They're looking for something better. People want a better future. They want something beautiful like for their kids to have. They want a beautiful future that their kids and their grandkids can be born into and not have to worry about, well, the path that we're set on right now where everything's just super destructive, our history is being erased, our people, they're attempting to like brainwash people so that
It's
we erase
ridiculous.
ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Critical race theory,
yeah,
etc. It's
yeah.
You
disgusting.
know, Donald, everything that we're talking about here, there's a lot of really good salt of the earth people out there.
Hmm.
And our message is about love. It's not about hate. And people will recognize that this is about love.
Hmm.
And I think that I have to just underscore what Hiraeth was saying, that yes, it will be difficult, and yes, there's going to be some really maybe even brutal times ahead. We don't know, but what I do know is that a lot of really good people are lost, and I think that by the hard work that everyone in the White Art Collective is contributing will yield the benefit, in the sense that it will provide a sense of hope to a lot of people who have that feeling, like Hiraeth was saying, that something's wrong, but they don't know what it is.
Mhm.
So in that sense, I'm optimistic, but I have to say that it won't be easy.
No,
So,
yeah, it definitely won't be. And that's where the sacrifice comes in. You got to
right.
realize that sometimes that, it's more important to stand up for something bigger than yourself.
Mm.
And if you can contribute to something bigger than yourself that's going to um, just help things grow and expand and, I don't know, become just better in general over time, then that's looking at the bigger picture rather than doing that thing where, we were talking about earlier how it's promoted to only look after yourself and your own ego and your own
Yeah.
self-interest and
Yeah.
your own looks or your own,
Yeah.
money or whatever it may be. And it's,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, it's way more than that. So, and I think a lot of people are looking for something bigger than themselves to stand for.
For sure. For sure. It's quite powerful and quite beautiful. So yeah, thanks for sharing that as well. There's a lot of important insights that people really should meditate on. There's a lot to cover there. So you've been following the show, it seems, for probably since the beginning, and you've appeared on Imperium Art before. discussed Francis Barker Yaki. I wanted to get your thoughts about the show and where what do you think we're doing with this show? Is it helping? Is there some area for improvement that we could do? Is there any critiques of the general concept? Just want to kind of get your overall view on Imperium Art as a project.
I think, well, I think you guys are great. I think you know this.
Well, it's not about us so much, but like,
Oh,
I know.
shucks.
you know.
Well, I think this show it's great. It's a great idea. And I like well, you put out a lot of them, so I can't hardly keep up sometimes, but I listen to most of them.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because every guest brings a different perspective and a different point of view. And I think that can be really good when you're trying to get a better understanding of your people and of where we should go from here, and the different ways or the different, I'm trying to think of how to word it, because it's like there's all different types of people. There's people who are good at initiating these ideas and putting them out into the world. There's people who are better at executing those. And then there's other people who are better at, bridging the gap between these two other kinds of people. And I think we have all of these different things within our own group of people. And it's important to utilize that because that's how we're going to function really, really well as a body, as a collective body. So I think the show does a really good job of showing these different sides. I like that.
Yeah, I hope that leads to more organization. I've always thought that, our movement should be run like a business. There should be managers and marketers and workers and, production content development, salesmen, CPA, the whole package. It would be great if somehow we could figure that out. And I think once again, we're the artists, we're the culture influencers. We create the culture, right? And that has a role. So what about other people who maybe they want to be involved, but they don't have artistic skills, for example? Well, there's so much going on specifically with the White Art Collective. I would strongly recommend people who want to contribute in any way that they can, if it's HTML or marketing. Marketing is a massive thing that I think we need more of.
Yeah. Promotions, promotional stuff, even just organizing like a schedule of, a consistent schedule of all the things that are happening or coming up, and then helping distribute that and having other people help promote that would be really, really useful.
So like if we had an army of Seaver Hamlins to
Yes. Oh gosh, yes.
Well, shout out to Seaver.
God bless Seaver. So for the audience's understanding, White Art Collective has several shows on DLive.tv every week, and Seaver is a kind of what's it called, a monitor or I don't know what
super moderator, like the
superhero
kind of moderator.
Yes.
He's the gray eminence.
He's awesome. And so anyway, he just voluntarily gets on every show and he will post links or do whatever moderators do that makes the show more professional and allows the viewers to link up to the stuff that we're talking to and connect even more to our understanding and our movement. So like I said, imagine having an army of him. So but there's a lot of other people out there, like Jerome Schmidt makes film. Well, what if we had all kinds of video production people, or et cetera, et cetera. So again, this is also a call out to the audience to get engaged, and number one, the main guy to talk to about that is Jeff Winston, who created the White Art Collective. He's doing extraordinary things, and I just cannot compliment him enough. I'm just amazed by him, and we're all, in a sense, we have a debt of gratitude to him setting this thing up and getting the momentum going. I don't think Imperium Art really would have happened without White Art Collective, right?
No, I agree. Totally.
Right. So it's this wonderful family, I guess, that we have here. But okay, so yeah, I guess that's where there's room for improvement right there. And yeah, okay. Well, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show. I don't know if there's any concluding thoughts with either of you,
I
Nullus or Hiraeth.
guess.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Uh,
For
Go
me,
ahead,
I just want
Hiraeth.
to say to like anybody that's listening that's not sure how they can contribute or what they can do, my suggestion is to just pretty much goes back to what you were just saying, but it's just to create in some sort of way, be constructive in any way that you can, and it doesn't have to be art or music. If we can be a creative force that creates, constructs, and innovates faster than the enemy can destroy, then it will become ingrained in us, and we won't have to worry about um, the future generations being born into the ruin that we're sort of seeing happen today. So if we could get that like ingrained in us, this sort of innate desire and drive to just create and construct and innovate, I
Yeah.
think that's one of the strengths of our people. It always has been, and so we just need to tap into it.
Well done.
Utilize that.
To manifest the life force, the life spirit, of growth and innovation and power. Nullus,
Harness the force within you.
yeah. Come with me, I will complete your training. But that's the other side. So, I gotta put the mask back. Uh, it's just a joke. Nullus, any concluding thoughts?
Yes. Well, first of all, I wanted to thank you, Hiraeth, for being with us on this episode, and your insights are always phenomenal and very very thoughtful. So I wanted to thank you for that. And in terms of helping out, if you like what we do, tell your friends about us, tell
Yeah.
your family about us, share it with people, and get them engaged. If you feel that they're ready for it. What we do, I think, is very wholesome. It's not we're not looking to create any kind of unnecessary discord. We're creating art. We're creating a positive feeling. We're creating family, and we want you to join this family. So bring your family along as well.
Mm. And friends. That's interesting that you say that because there's many kind of ghettos on the internet or spheres on the internet where people are shitlording or doing a lot of like edgy stuff and
Mhm.
our sphere in the white positive world here is we can be edgy and funny and have a great time and stuff like that, but overall it's more positive than negative. It's always positive us, not negative other people. So yeah, come on in. The door's open, and we
Yeah, we're in
welcome.
this for the long haul. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a hot cup of tea waiting.
Yeah.
there you go.
I'll pick up my guitar and we'll have a good time.
Real quick,
All
I
right.
just want to say thank you guys so much for having me again. This has been awesome, and I always enjoy speaking to the both of you, and I love what you're doing. So
Oh,
Thank
thanks so
you.
much.
look
All right,
forward to
gang.
seeing who you bring on next. Sorry.
Mhm. Well, yeah, there's always great stuff coming down the line. We got a lot
Yeah.
of people coming. So yes, please subscribe, share, comment. You know the drill. Love you guys. Have yourself a great evening.